from Nigeria. I'm the acting director of research, innovation and linkages for Ajayi Crowther University here in Nigeria. And I look forward to this enlightening webinar to gain more and also to contribute to the issue of internationalization in our higher education system.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Afolake. Krishna, would you like to introduce yourself? Welcome again.
Thank you. Greetings, everyone. And Joanna, thank you very much for organizing these seminars. My name is Krishna Bista. I'm Professor of Higher Education and Senior Executive Vice President of Star Scholars. I work at Morgan State University, established in 1867, the National Treasure Carnegie Classification Research University, and a leading historically Black college and university. My research focuses on international student mobility, equity in global education, and intersection of technology and access in higher education. Because of our roots and connection, history, legacy with Africa and Africa region, I collaborate with the HBCU across the U.S. to promote diaspora-led partnership. And this session is super important considering our legacy and shared, history of resilience, and radical imagination. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Krishna, and welcome back. It's great to have you on the panel. Felix, are you there? Would you like to introduce yourself? Okay, I'm not sure if anyone else is getting a signal from Felix. Professor Felix Maringe is a professor of higher education, currently the DVC for Institutional Development, Research and Innovation at the University of Kigali. Hopefully Felix will be with us soon to also say a few words about himself. We also have today Professor Juliet Thondalana, but I'm not sure if Juliet is already on the line or not. I don't see her at the moment. Juliet is professor and a UNESCO chairholder in international education and development, as well as the head of the Association of African Universities Europe Regional Office, currently at the based at the University of Nottingham. We also have today, hopefully joining us also, Miss Lina. Lina, are you there? Lina Salomao? Okay, well, maybe when Lina joins. Lina Salomao is a PhD candidate in anthropology at Moi University, Kenya, specializing in gender relations, education, and social equity. So hopefully Lina will be with us also soon to join the conversation. So thank you again, everyone, for joining. This is the second episode in the series. In episode 1, we discussed generally meanings of internationalization, and the discussion led us to defining internationalization as integrating a global and intercultural elements into higher education institutions, therefore encompassing student staff mobility, collaborations, as well as language policies. We kind of approach internationalization as a moral and educational imperative, built on mutual and reciprocal relationships. We also discussed internationalization as a transformative journey that demands a shift in a mindset and a policy, and potentially a shift in institutional structures. Therefore, I think, in summary, we agree that internationalization is about creating the right conditions for positive change, so that African higher education remains relevant and globally influential, and yet at the same time maintaining the unique local identity and priorities. In episode 2, we will continue the discussion, building on this. We've identified in episode 1 5 main priorities for internationalization, especially within the African higher education context. These are securing funding, ensuring financial resources for internationalization initiatives, strengthening doctoral training to foster advanced research, and therefore collaboration, which is the third priority, global research collaborations, building robust global research partnerships. And the fourth priority is enhancing academic collaborations, strengthening connections with academic institutions worldwide, as well as the fifth priority, establishing leadership, creating what can be called an internationalization chair to lead and sustain these internationalization efforts. So today we are going to discuss how these priorities can or may be approached or integrated into internationalization policy and practice. We're going to discuss possible strengths that can be built upon when approaching such priorities, as well as potential challenges and gaps that might need to be understood further. And finally, going forward, in terms of identifying possible policy initiatives that may be urgently needed at this point for the short or the long term. So without further ado, let's start the discussion, and we have these elements that are mentioned as individual discussion points, so we will start with them one by one. The discussion is open to the panel. Anyone can chip in and interrupt or contribute to the discussion from the panel. We will take questions from the audience at the very end. Feel free to engage with the chat if you have any thoughts and questions also, and Tracy and the team will be keeping an eye on that. Okay, so our first discussion point then is addressing the internationalization priorities within the African higher education context. So how can the priorities that I've mentioned before, how can they be approached or addressed? Should we think about them as separate priorities, or perhaps a combination of priorities in any particular sequence or order? If so, why and who decides?
If I may take the lead.
Please.
Thank you very much for having me around this afternoon. If we look at the priorities, really, they are interconnected. So we can't treat them in isolation, or because they are interwoven, sort of. So it is better for them to be addressed in combination, that is, look at the ones that can go hand in hand together. And if we can approach it using the strategic sequence. That is, we try to look at the first fundamental issue, which to me, I think, is establishing leadership. Because there must be somebody that wants to drive the innovation, that wants to drive the policy, that wants to drive the advocacy, that wants to put direction in place for others to follow. Then after establishing the leadership sector, then I think the next thing is how to secure funding, which really ought to be the first step, because it is the funding that enables the implementation of all the other priorities. Then we can now combine global research collaborations and academic linkages for the two of them to go hand in hand, because the two can be developed concurrently. When you establish a strong academic linkage, that is what will facilitate a very good research collaborations, and vice versa. So the two of them can run concurrently. Then enhancing the doctoral training is also a very vital point that have a very good priorities that have to be well taken care of, because it will enhance the production of high quality research that will attract global research collaborations. So if you look at all the priorities, you can see that they are interwoven, sort of. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. Dr. Afoleke, just to clarify, are you talking about the African context generally, or are you talking about a specific country?
Yeah, I'm being specific about the African higher education context.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for that. Anyone on the panel would like to respond or add any thoughts?
Yeah, can I?
Of course, please.
Thank you, Joanna. Thank you for. I agree with my colleague. In fact, we have to see, in my opinion, these five priorities in combination, and not in terms of isolation. In fact, I would take an example. If, for example, doctorate training programs, for example, can be designed jointly with international partners, we can do it locally. So funded through external grants and guided by Internationalization chair. So in terms of efficiency, for example, you have to coordinate planning reduces duplication and align resources. We are faced lack of resources, material, human resources, all over Africa. So all our universities have the same, I think, or evolved in the same context. So, and finally, the reputation building. So, and if we think about the main or common strategy, so we will improve visibility and impact of our actions in terms of these priorities. But also, I'm back to what my colleague said. The main priority is the establishing leadership. So without leadership, we cannot talk about the other priorities. And for that, we suggest a dedicated internationalization chair. So that will provide us with vision, coordination, and accountability. And without this leadership, efforts risk fragmentation or lack of continuity. So So our senior university leadership, I mean rectors, president of university, the board of universities, should appoint or approve the leadership role based on their expertise and strategic alignment. This is my point of view regarding this first issue. The floor is yours, John. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Khalid. That's very interesting. Anyone would like to respond? Or
yeah, I can just take the lead for a few words. This is very interesting from the two colleagues who have just highlighted the points clearly. We may not just choose this and that, but in Africa context, you realize that most of us, our universities, we look for maybe funds even before we make plans. We need to have plans, we need to have funds before we make plans, which means we need policies to make in place policies before even we look for what we want to do. Because each university or institution should have a vision, whereby from that, then you can look for funds, and you'll see that when you have a vision, that means there's a good leadership, which can really know what they are, where they are going, and what they want to do, and how to help the community in large. But most of the time, because of this lack of leadership, which is focused and have vision, we're likely to go for funds. We write letters, fundraising, but we don't have clear policy, national policies, even regional policies, which can really help us to make sure that we have good collaboration. Because in what we are realizing now, funds may not be the everything, but plans may make the funds work well, and we can get those who can fund what we have planned very well. So that's what I can say from the 5 points which we are having. Now, the leadership is the leading point, because when we don't have strong leaders with all the vision which they can for the institution, no matter funds we can receive, we will not have good accountability, as my colleague has said. So we need really to organize well and have good plans for what we are doing. Thank you.
thank you, Kazumoto. Thank you for that.
Yes, Joanna, can I come in as well?
Please,
Oh,
please.
okay. No, thank you very much indeed. I'm sorry I did not get connected early enough, and I had a few problems with the connectivity.
No worries. I introduced you very briefly, but feel free to say a couple of things about yourself before you add your thoughts if you wish. It's up to you.
I think that is enough. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Joanna, I think I would like to agree with my colleagues, particularly about the difficulties associated with actually prioritizing and saying this issue here can actually be treated separately from this other issue, and therefore we put it on a hierarchy or something like that. I think sometimes, the bundled up approach can actually yield the kinds of results that we are looking for. But knowing, as the other colleagues have said, that leadership is very, very important in all the things that we are doing. But I just wanted to mention one very curious issue about leadership, particularly around internationalization within our universities on the African continent. And when I say African continent, I might sound as if I'm overgeneralizing. But I've seen and worked in 3 different countries on the African continent itself. And what I seem to have observed seems to be the same in terms of how the leadership relate to the people on the ground. And this is what I want to be able to say, that sometimes our leadership within the universities almost exist on a different planet compared to perhaps the students and the staff who are within those universities. I want to give you a very typical example. In South Africa, for example, students agitated for decolonization of higher education. 2015, 2016, at University of Cape Town and also at the University of the Witwatersrand. Became a nationwide kind of struggle, and everybody was almost unanimous that, you know, this is the way to go. But when it comes to prioritizing those ideas within the university, there is not much initiative that seems to come from the senior leadership of our universities. So the voices at the bottom appear to be split in the context of their own institutions, to be brought out of their institutions, perhaps to government. Now, I'm not trying to say that anybody is resisting that particular kind of thing, but I think there is noticeable inertia amongst leadership to embrace some of the ideas that seem to be coming from the grassroots. And if this is actually happening, to be quite honest, I think this is extremely unfortunate. And I think it won't augur well for our internationalization, for the transformation of our internationalization, and also of our institutions. So I thought I would just bring in that, because we've mentioned leadership is very important. And perhaps just to characterize what it looks like at this particular stage. Maybe too much of a generalization, but it's something I think worth watching out for. Thank you.
Thank you, Felix. Kazimoto, did you want to say something at this point?
Yeah, I agree with Felix, what he's saying. That's a particular way.
Yeah.
You know, the student, staff, and leaders, sometimes we may not agree. And this is based on how vision or the plans, goals of the institution is where it's going. And actually, in practical sense, we are supposed to have a leader who can unite them, not looking for collaboration outside, but start collaborating the teamwork so that what we are planning is going along with what the student needs, the staff needs, and now we can reach the vision of our institution. That's very correct, Professor Felix. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else would like to respond? Krishna, you have any thoughts?
Sure.
Would like to add?
Thank you, Joe. As an outsider, what I can say from my institutional perspective here at Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland, you know, we have a heavy connection and presence in many of the universities in Africa and in the region, and through the holistic lens, combining both curriculum, research, student mobility, and cultural exchange. So these priorities are interconnected and the best addressed more together in a holistic way. So beginning with the local capacity building, then scaling up to regional or international collaboration. So I'm, in with the decision-making power being there in African institutions, grounded in community and cultural context. And now, definitely, those kind of things should come from there locally because of the rich, history, legacy, and everything that you have. African Diaspora Partnership, and Morgan is in one of the SBCs have been doing, a number of partnership in Ghana, Nigeria, and many other parts of the region. Position, and thank you, colleagues, enlightening the resources and the real need on the ground.
I guess, the whole point of an event like this is to change these views and see what happens, in various contexts, and learn also from each other. So thank you for providing that perspective. Okay, I think these issues, the leadership, for example, and the example that Felix has given, can lead us to a discussion of perhaps we need to try to understand these realities and why this is happening in the first place. Because the vision seems to be there. So what kind of gets in the way? What could be a possible cause for this seeming lack of engagement with the policies? Or maybe it's to do with the policies themselves. The policy by nature is a very brief kind of document that might not necessarily cover everything we wanted to, or address all the specific aspects of the context. So we'll come back to this in a moment. Based on that, let's look at the possible strength. Let's start from a positive point of view. What encourages the African could develop any needed new policies?
Thank you very much, Joanna. One of the strengths that I think we have in Africa higher education is our young and dynamic population. We have the numbers in terms of population. So, and a large and growing youth population that are eager for education, and they are also eager for international opportunities. And we can leverage on this if we are able to build up a very good policy brief for internationalization and incorporate it into our higher education systems. So this will encourage more of our youth to know that, okay, by going to school and having the required exposure, I can get all the experience that my peers are getting outside the African continent. And all this issue of brain drain can reduce appreciably. So I think that is one of the major strengths that we have in Africa higher education context that can help us to develop all these policies we are trying to look at in terms of internationalization.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, to follow what my colleague said regarding the young population in Africa, we have, in fact, youth and civil society engagement. So the students and young researchers are increasingly involved in innovation and research networks. So I think that Ubuntu Youth base can help push bottom-up reforms and bring global awareness to African higher education priorities. I think this is a very important our strength among others. We can advance. We have in Africa some continental and regional frameworks. For example, we have the Agenda 2063, the African Union's blueprint for inclusive growth. We have the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is facilitated by mobility and collaboration, and so on. So these frameworks support harmonization, cross-border collaboration, and to share policy goals. But I think that once more, leadership is very important to reach all these goals and objectives. The other strengths are we can talk about maybe the culture and linguistic diversity in Africa. You know, we have multiple multilingualism. And cultural diversity, and this is a huge strength, I think. We can enhance at the same time what we call the soft power set in terms of academic diplomacy. So, and enrich joint program with global relevance. So this is, for me, the main strength which the African context has now. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much, Khalid. This is very interesting.
Can I come in, Joanna?
Please, please.
Okay, thank you. All right, okay. No, thank you very much indeed. I think the points raised by my colleagues are very, very important. I'd not even, started thinking about how issue of the young, growing and enthusiastic population is a very, very important strength that can be leveraged upon to build our higher education sectors. But I think also the other issue by the second speaker about the strategy exists, which we can build upon. I think also talk about the kind of strengths that are already within the higher education system of the African continent. I would like to add to this just perhaps one or two other things about the strengths of African higher education. I think that there is more that unites us as African higher education sectors, whether they are challenges, whether they are successes or achievements. There is a lot of things that actually, unite us. I think that there is a groundswell of opinion, particularly amongst students, amongst these young people that the first speaker talked about the need for the decolonization of higher education. And that in itself could actually be, a very important fulcrum for the development of international education within on the continent and within higher education in general. So I think that is very important. The second one, which may sometimes be looked at upon as a threat, is, in my view, I see it as a strength. And this is the fact that the majority of people that are coming out of the African continent to go anywhere else in the world are effectively multilingual. They've got their home mother tongue competence, and they usually have got the language of the colonizer that they've mastered over the years in their schooling years. So they are already multilingual. And if we are talking about the advantages of multilingualism in higher education, I think it is best illustrated on the African continent. And therefore, I see that as a strength as well. I'll stop there and allow perhaps other colleagues to talk about other things as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Felix. That's great.
Okay.
Any other thoughts?
Can
Please.
add also. Thank you for the colleagues. Those points, those are our strength as African higher education. We're happy. Actually, in our institutions, they are going very well, because I can have maybe 2-3 points to
Kazimoto looks frozen to me. Is this the case for others as well?
I can chime in.
Oh, there you are.
Okay. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Sorry, Kaswato. Yes, we lost you there for a bit. Please carry on.
I was saying that our strength for higher learning, especially for when it comes to this, what you're talking about leadership as well, our leaders are doing well. And one of the points is that we are promoting now the harmonization on our higher institutions. So everything is looking like we are doing the things which are really based on what we need in Africa. As from even the African Association of Universities, you can see which it is doing. This is to look for way forward so that all of us, we can go in the same direction. That's really a very good strength which you have. The second thing is that we are focusing now on indigenous practices. We don't need more from outside. Maybe let us outside our education now of what the kids know. As Professor Fenn said, the mother tongue. Now, at schools, universities, they introduce the language. And you can see, like in Tanzania, basically Swahili is working very well, even in the other countries. And another point, the third one, is that we are going towards digital, which was not there before. We had maybe hardly we could talk about UNISA from South Africa. We could talk about the National University, Open University of Nigeria, and I can list those few of them. But now today, at least in each institution, we have at least that program. And basically, where I'm working now, it is open and distance learning university. So that is one of the strengths which we have now, because we are really doing well in those areas of our institutions. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all very interesting. Anyone would like to add any thoughts?
Sure.
Please.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with our colleagues here. Also, in the context of the pressure in publication and research, particularly in top-tier journals and book publications, I would highlight the Africa's linguistic richness, intellectual tradition. Some of our colleagues said the leadership in those, and oral histories and youth populations. These are amazing strength that academia can highlight. In many of the universities, even in the US, we have 105 historically Black colleges and universities. Those were created in response to educational exclusion, and they have thrived through the community engagement, resilience, and innovation. Africa can have that unique perspective that can highlight and meet the demand of top-tier publications that institutional leaders have been asking their faculty colleagues or doctoral students. So, in my opinion, we must elevate African epistemologies, not just to adopt the Euro-American models, and through the joint faculty appointments, which has been happening in Europe or American or other country and context. Those kind of, joint faculty appointment or heritage program co-author publications can boost and amplify each other's voice. And the global academic community must support these initiatives, particularly, in the current geopolitical context, even in the US or elsewhere. You can see how global education has been threatened. Again, I really support everyone's voice here in the room, but you do have power that nobody has, that set of things in Africa and the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I think that this is all really fascinating, and it's interesting to reflect on the strengths as well as the challenges. But like you've all highlighted, I guess this needs to be more obvious, perhaps through publication is one, and that kind of takes us to the next point. How much are these strengths actually understood? and how can they be best utilized? So how can the African and global academic community contribute to the understanding of these strengths so we can build on them? I mean, Krishna, you mentioned the idea of publications and making voices heard. Is there any other thing that the academic community can do to understand these strengths better and bring them to the light?
I think that this strength of African higher education are, of course, recognized, but not always fully understood. So, or appreciated or leveraged, either within Africa or globally, Here, to truly unlock the potential, we need deliberate action, clearer visibility, and collaborative strategies from both, from African and global academic communities. We cannot be in isolation, how can I say, philosophy. We have to discuss with all the stakeholders in continental or regional or globally field. So this is for me very important. So how to say that we have this strength, but we have to, but also we have weaknesses, but we have to reveal this and to have to promote all this strength and to be understood by all the stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Khaled.
Joanna, could I come in?
Okay.
Okay, yes, please. I think
Right, okay.
Afulake wanted to say something as well. So.
All right, okay, let him go first.
No.
Sorry.
Let Prof go ahead, please.
No, please. No, please. Go. I'll come
Okay.
after you.
Afulake, go ahead.
Thank you, Prof. Yeah, what I wanted to say was that to me, the strength is just still growing. They are not yet fully realized, or they are not yet systematically leveraged yet. But we are still in the process. And some of the ways we can best utilize some of these strengths that we have highlighted. First, I think there is a need for us to start actively engaging the African diaspora. We have quite a lot of them outside there. So we can begin to incorporate them into our higher education system, into our institution. We can invite them in as visiting professors. They can be handling research projects. They can also be involved in mentorship programs. So with that, they know that we have something to offer also. And one of the speakers was talking about indigenous, that we should incorporate our indigenous. One of the speakers said we need to incorporate our indigenous knowledge system. So there is a need for us to integrate this indigenous knowledge system into our institution curriculum, so that by the time the need of it arises globally, then they will be able to highlight and pick it up, and it will be able to add more value outside there. So when we actively or effectively communicate the impact of our research that is based locally within the African context, then it will be easy for us to be able to attract or solve global challenges. That's my contribution. discussion.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Felix, please go ahead.
Yes. Okay. No, thank you very much indeed. I do agree with the colleagues that have spoken so far about this particular question. And in fact, I actually thought about this very carefully and said to myself, this is a really good question that you have asked us to prepare on, Joanna, which is, here are the advantages, here are the strengths of our system, but are we leveraging on those strengths? And I think that I do agree that we are not doing enough to leverage on these strengths. Even if it is from a point of view of the research that underpins the assumptions of strengths, I don't think we are doing enough. Even if it means it is research which attempts to be focusing on some of the challenges and weaknesses that need to be gotten rid of in order for the system to move more efficiently and effectively. I don't think we are doing enough. So I do agree that yes, we've got those strengths, but we are not leveraging sufficiently on those strengths in order to derive better benefits from the entire system. Just want to give one example. We talked about language and the strengths of multilingualism amongst our populations. And there are two things that seem to be happening on the African continent. There is a very, very, very slow progress towards making our indigenous languages operate perhaps at the same level as the languages that we inherited from our past legacies. Very little is actually happening across the whole continent. So you'll find in our schools, our own indigenous languages are often relegated as minor kinds of learnings that are supposed to be taking place within the school system. And so I think that in itself is failure to recognize and to leverage on one of the key strengths of our systems. I have seen a lot of researchers within the South Africa in particular who I think are very, very strong on the notion of multi-languaging, multilingualism in schools and so on and so forth. But perhaps that is not going on sufficiently strongly within other regions of the continent. And yet I think that would be very, very useful in terms of building on our own strengths. I will stop there, Joanna. Thank you.
Thank you, Felix. Thank you. So would you, everyone on the panel, would you think that these kind of strengths, or building on the strengths, so do you think they should be a priority for policies, perhaps? And if so, what can be done? I think we've all acknowledged that not enough is being done to address these strengths, perhaps. What do you think?
John, sorry, can I speak?
Go ahead,
Khalid.
you can.
Okay, thank you. So the main, I think, challenge and gaps we have in our higher education system in Africa, I think it's related to the limited fundings. I think it's a huge issue. It's a chronic issue, so we suffer from this challenge, and I think that in the impact of this gap is very huge. So we have difficulties, in our faculties to support doctoral programs, the research infrastructure, the laboratories, the staff cost for our academic or administrative, let me say, persons. So, and related to this gap, we have the lack or the absence of diversified funding models. So we don't have we don't include the private sector, the private firms, the philanthropic, the alumni, etc. So this is a structural gap, let me say. So on the other hand, I think that we have fragmented internationalization strategies. So few institutions, even here in my country, have comprehensive internationalization framework or offices. So in my university, we have our international office, and we have multiple international projects. We are involved in multiple projects as partners and as leaders. And this is great. We have funding, not always, but it's sometimes it's we help that it's very helpful to build laboratories, to have a classroom with high technologies, but it's not enough. It's not enough. So the impact of this is the missed opportunities for collaboration and the inconsistent engagement with global partners. So we have another problem in terms related to the two first gaps, the infrastructure, and the connectivity gaps. So we have poor digital infrastructure. I think it's something which we share. It's shared by all the African countries. Poor digital infrastructure, limited bandwidth, and lack of access to academic databases. And let me focus on this: how to access to the academic databases. We suffer from this issue. Our researchers don't have this opportunity to have this free access to the academic databases, which have an impact on their outputs and outcomes in terms of research, articles, books, etc. So we have limits participation in virtual exchange, the online collaboration, and open science. So this is very, let me say, critical gaps which suffer the most of our African countries. Let me give you the floor, John, for the other colleagues.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Khalid. Thank you. Afulake, I think you wanted to say something.
Thank you very much, Khalid. Yes, we really mentioned quite a lot of
Hello, Afulake. Sorry, I think we lost you there for a bit.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Khalid. Yeah, you've really mentioned quite a lot of challenges. And if I can just add one or two, I would like to talk about one that is more common with my country here in Nigeria, and that has to do with brain drain. We are having quite a high number of immigration. Oh, can you hear me, please?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
We are having quite a large number of immigration of talented academics and researchers. And this is really weakening our institutional capacity. And it is also hindering the development of strong research programs within the country. So that is one major challenge, and that is creating a very wide gap. And even though I agree with Prof about multilingualism, but do you know that language barriers is also one of the problems, even though it looks as a strength, but it is one of the problems we are facing in the times of internationalization. Because this language barrier is making it sometimes very difficult to have international collaborations, except you can advance yourself to the level of the language they are speaking in that country before you can really blend really into their system. So those are the two major challenges and gaps that I can think of now. Thank you
very much. Thank you, Falake.
Okay, I can maybe also add some points here.
Please.
We may have so many challenges, but actually we are overcoming them. More slowly, we are overcoming challenges. However, we lack so many things, like many universities, in terms of publications, as the colleague have said, digital data are not stored in many universities. They just publish, sometimes they have books just printed and then it's not shared. So no exchange of experiences through publications in many areas. And another challenge could be also harmonization. Although we are trying to work just within the country, but there's no intercultural exchange whereby we can see what is happening in Kenya and Uganda and put them in what we are doing. And this, or some students in many universities in some countries in Africa, when you move from your country to go to another university in another country, there's a problem because your programs may not be exactly the same as the other one because there's no harmonization in what we are doing. So that is really a challenge which might be there. So maybe that's what we are facing, and then policies have to be there so that when you move cross countries, something will happen easily for our students. And programs is very, very, very slow in Africa now, in our context, whereby we don't have so many programs maybe which are taken in Nairobi, in Nigeria, in South Africa, within our country. We just stay in our box, You stay in your box whereby you don't have too much looking at what is happening elsewhere. Although it is not really the best, but it helps for some of the students to know, even if that is what they are doing in their country, but they may know also what is happening elsewhere. And that's why the digital, the forums, all those, we need them so that we can have exchange of ideas, online conferences and seminars to help others. And another point which was very terrible, maybe a challenge which we have, that's the draining, because whoever feels now he has got enough knowledge, most of Africans, the trend is to go outside, I have to go to Europe now, I have to go somewhere. And that is a problem. When you have this base knowledge to teach your people and help them, you cannot even come back. Even if you finish your PhD somewhere else in another country, they call you in your country to help a university. It is really very hard for our scholars to do that. So that's one of the challenges which we have while they are doing the best somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kazumoto. Yes, that's very interesting. Felix, would you like to add anything to this?
Yeah. I don't have much else to add. I think the points raised by my colleagues are very, very interesting. Perhaps I just want to add something that I probably did not hear any of the last speakers talking about, which is the solutions we are trying to find and determine on the continent are addressing similar kinds of issues and problems that are to be found in the West. And therefore, I think that is something that need to be looking at very, very carefully. And it is, looking at the way we actually create our strategies. I think there is what I call far too much copycat strategizing within our African higher education sectors, and that also includes our own international.
Thank you, Felix. Thank you. Krishna, would you like to add any comments to this? Any thoughts?
Thank you, Joe. Yes, my colleagues have already added more points. I would more focus on the strength of African institutions that can build on existing resources, including that earlier we said expanding digital and virtual model. And here at Morgan, many of my colleagues have been doing virtual internationalization curriculum designing projects. Samia in the chat also included those. Yes, so adding more the online joint courses, supervision of the graduate research projects, and involving Pan-African faculty network would be something helpful. And also developing Africa lead research agenda that could focus on sustainable development, community impacts, and indigenous knowledge system could be helpful. In some of the American or the European universities have also establishing their regional hubs of excellence and